I probably could be better. So it actually looks like it's using my AirPods.
Now, does it sound different now?
Yeah, it sounds good, actually.
Okay, cool.
All right, we are going live. Coming on Instagram in a second. All right, sweet. We are live. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining today for a lunch and learn. I brought my good friend on, Craig Swanson, to talk about custom GPTs. So the goal for today is I think a lot of people are already doing a lot of things with Claude, with ChatGPT to do it for copywriting. You're starting to play with the knowledge base. We want to just show what we're doing. Hopefully it'll validate some of the things you're doing, or maybe inspire some ideas on what you could be doing with your custom GPTs. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk high level. I'm going to show behind the scenes on how we edit it. And we even did some prompts where we use the custom knowledge base, where we don't, to really see the difference. And the fancy version of ChatGPT that was $200 that as of Tuesday is now $20 for the deep research. Craig and I pulled that together as well. So hopefully this will be fun. This probably won't go over 30 minutes. But it's fun. I've had Craig on the podcast a bunch. He's a friend of mine through an entrepreneurship group. He sold a bunch of his companies, and in his startup sabbatical, he launched, I think, 8 AI startups in 8 weeks, really just as a way to tinker and learn. But yeah, now I've conned him in to help do some stuff with us at GrowthHit. But Craig, anything you want to add on your AI journey as we're all figuring this out?
No, but I think even in that conversation, like, it reveals how fast everything is moving. That features that were once part of the $200 a month ChatGPT feature, now part of the $20 a month. Pretty much anything that we build today, 3 or 4 months from now, it just gets better. Like, this is the worst AI is ever going to be at this stage today.
Yeah, and I feel like the breakthroughs on video and image is what we're the most excited about as a team. If we can make that AI creative studio, that's amazing. But it's getting better. All right, so where to begin? So first, we were kind of talking about, like, okay, which version should you use? Is it Claude? Is it Gemini? Is it ChatGPT? Do you get the $20 option, the $200 option? Honestly, I don't know. We were on the call today in the AI Council, and people are really excited about Claude. I'm not here to make an opinion on it. We're playing with all of them. I think the key is just to start tinkering and go with, like, the cheapest paid version. I mean, Craig, what would you say when getting
the
started?
one thing that's really coming across, because we've been doing interviews with clients and talking to people, I'm surprised, but almost everybody seems to be using ChatGPT in some fashion at this point, or at least very familiar with it.
Yeah.
And so, like, the one thing I think a lot of people are using either the free version or the paid $20 a month one. I definitely would lean into the $20 a month probably. But I think what you were going to demonstrate today is really the difference between just kind of like generic vanilla ChatGPT versus doing a little bit of pre-work and creating a custom GPT that has a lot of knowledge about your particular brand or your particular setup, because it still feels AI in both cases, still responds with kind of this general awareness, but then when it knows about your particular brand, it really changes, like, the quality of those responses.
Yeah, and it just saves you from repetitive work, having to remind a generic GPT on, like, hey, remember, this is for my clothing brand Neat, and here's like the points of differentiation. So yeah, and so even before we get into the tools, one thing that I'm always trying to remind myself is, like, hey, what's the job to be done here, right? Am I looking to ChatGPT for strategy, for execution, or am I using it for workflows? And I think more and more it's a little bit on execution. However, and I'll kind of show this, I have been using it as a strategic coach that understands EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System, understands Dan Sullivan's books, that is Alex Hormozy, that is Russell Brunson. And so for me, I don't know, I feel like strategy and execution is where I fall execution the most. But I think where we can have the biggest impact is actually workflows. But what about you if you put in those 3 categories?
For me, okay, so for me, I think that where we are with AI right now is really good from a marketing standpoint at creating a lot of generative options. So the big thing is AI really rapidly can like run through a whole bunch of different headlines, a whole bunch of like executional level stuff, but we're not yet really seeing it be able to discern things at like a strategist level. Really, a lot of times when I'm looking at how teams run, they'll just generate all this different content. It's a little bit like unleashing a whole bunch of freelancers to create stuff, and then the brand manager or high level strategist will go through and kind of on a taste level decide which of those pieces are the best, which they're going to pull in. And so it's not yet kind of an autonomous actor as much as it is something you can use to really augment your creative team.
Yeah, and definitely not a tastemaker, right? To give you that final version. It gives a lot of options, but you still need someone to take it across the finish line, right?
Yeah.
And one other kind of framework before we get into it is actually a talk. It was Jeff Woods doing a talk on his book, The AI-Driven Leader. And he was just giving advice on how to use this. And he gave a very simple framework for doing prompts that I use every day. And the whole genesis is it is not about getting answers from your GPT. It's about getting it to ask you the right questions to get to the right answer. So questions over answers. And so his framework is super simple. Load it up with context, hence having that knowledge base, which we'll talk about in a second. That's one. Two, start to ask the right question. But before you let it give you an answer, do two crucial things. One, have it take the persona of, like I said, it could be an executive coach that understands strategy and the entrepreneur operating system. It could be a growth-minded growth hacker that took all the Reforged classes from Brian Belfour, maybe read our content. And then after they take the persona, here's the most important thing. Have it interview you. Ask you up to 5 questions, one at a time, to give you give the GPT more context before it gives a recommendation. And I'll even do this on audio mode so I don't have to type anything. And I'm just like, it knocks my socks off. If not, because I feel like if you don't do that, you have it give you an answer and it starts to go down this wrong path. But if it collects enough context, it is really helpful. And I've seen, and you kind of led me to this, and then reading Jeff's book, I was like, oh my gosh, this I think is the biggest unlock.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about any AI right now, it will answer any question you give it, but it will answer in a very generic way. I was thinking about Ogilvy, like Ogilvy wrote about basically the importance of different parts of what you're doing, basically the strategy, the short little headline at the top. Like there are things that are most important, basically your positioning, your angle, all these things are like really important strategy wise. That's something that ChatGPT can help like brainstorm and like give things to you, but it's never come up with the right one. It'll come up with a whole bunch of ones. But when you pick that, it's like farther down that flow of things you need to create, the more it can take over as you've got the positioning down, you've got your target audience, you've got all these things. And then it probably can't handle like those strategic level, but it more and more can handle the execution on the block and tackling on, a bunch of text for Facebook ads, a bunch of text for emails, things like that, where it can just really churn through that when you've done the work of talking it out with it and helping it understand who you're really focusing on.
Yeah. And I feel like I get more reps in this, I get better at knowing how to like prompt engineer, like have it ask the right questions. And I think that's where like the reps help just to incorporate this into everything you do. All right, let me share my screen. Let's get into it. Cool. So,
and it looks like you've got a yard stream thing at the bottom there. If you can turn it off if you have the ability.
Oh, that's a
that
great
comment.
Question. That is a great question. There we go. Awesome. All right, cool. So hopefully people can see this all right. So one thing, I think people are familiar with this, but just to show, like this is the custom GPT that I have. You can see a bunch of them over here that I've made, and I have them for different use cases, like whether it's my sales GPT for clients, my entrepreneurship group, my own custom GPT that has like my brand voice in it. But for the purpose of this, let's look at Neat. So I'll go to edit my GPT. And so you guys are probably familiar with this. But we'll just talk about some of the things that has made this kind of, I feel like, give myself and our team superpowers. So I think maybe the best thing to start with is the knowledge base. Like, what are these files, these, PDFs, these CSV files that you can upload that can really start to arm your GPT with intelligence so it can basically be a team of 100 people ready to go. So, I mean, we can kind of go rapid fire, Craig, like with the things we've put in there. So first is like anything you have on brand voice, brand guidelines, anything with tone, right? That's one. Another one, and this is one you've spent a lot of time, is customer reviews. Yep. We have lots of customer reviews. And so that's amazing because in my mind, from someone that does customer research, what is that? That's a voice of customer studies. So boom, have those two things in there. The other thing that we put in there is like our framework for growth. That way it starts to speak the language and take the persona of a growth marketer, right? We also have uploaded a lot of actual quantifiable data. So customer buying history, product sales history, anything around email history, we've put in there.
So Jim, talk to me a little bit about how you built these things, because I know your team basically put a lot of work into each of these individual pieces. So how long did it take to compile all this and put this together? And then how often do you refresh this?
Yeah, good question. So on the refreshing side, we have played with tools to make it a little bit more automatic. Like here's one tool, Advisor, that can automatically sync data. However, we've run into an issue with data hygiene where I think this will work, but we're still tinkering with it. But the other question you have, which also kind of goes to the knowledge base and even the prompt library, I mean, we've been working for months compiling one, just like what is the data that we need to make ourselves really impactful, but also what are the prompts that need to be customly structured to get the most out of that data. So it's been a process and a journey. But I think was it 2 weeks ago, one of our ad leads, Andre, he's like, I literally use this every day. Yeah. He's like, this gives me superpowers. So the juice is worth the squeeze if you put the time into it.
So really, like, there's almost two layers that's happening here. One is you're putting a lot of information about Neat, which is the product line. So it's the product line, the voice of the language that the customer uses for this, reviews, sales data, all that information. That's specific to Neat or a client. And then you've got this entire library of prompts that the team has built over time for creating different types of materials, ads, assets.
Exactly. And we'll go through some of the ad ones that perform extremely well when you have the knowledge base. And to your question of how often do we update it? For us, we want to know the ad copy that is working. So every month we're evaluating, do we have new top performers? We want to update that. Same with emails. We do a lot of email content and there's some gold in there. So we're updating that on a monthly basis. And again, this is something we're looking to streamline with an API integration. So it's all automatic. But right now we are kind of pruning it ourselves just to be nuanced with it. So this like Neat brand voice architecture and like email calendar and scripts, these are things that we will update.
That's great.
Yeah. And then we'll even take screenshots of dashboards literally from Shopify. I mean, we can have that API integrate, but that's what I did initially. I just literally uploaded screenshots.
Yeah. I think you did an interesting exercise before we came on where you basically did the same prompt on a generic ChatGPT conversation and then with this particular one that knows about Neat. Could you show the differences between those two?
Yeah, let's do that. So here's the prompt, or here's the business case. Hey, we want to run TikTok ads. We're about to work with a bunch of creators. Help give the script for these creators. So perfect. That should be easy. So we already have a prompt for that. So here's the prompt, and notice this is a normal GPT, and then we tested it with a custom one. So the normal one that came out isn't horrible. It understands it's neat that we make sweat-proof shirts. There's some good stuff going on here. However, when you're like, hey, how does this technology work? It's like, oh, it's a sweat-proof technology. It's a little generic. It's not wrong, but it's not accurate. But
so it doesn't sound like you. It a theoretical version of you, it sounds like, but it's not actually the way you guys talk.
Yes, it gets it right at a high level, but it misses the details, which can also be dangerous when it comes to ads and making false claims. So now when we go to the custom GPT that we made the script for, it started to pick up things like we say these things like originally engineered for the military. That pulls from one of our top ads. That's amazing that it got that from the Facebook ad one. Also, when it talks about the technology, it gets it right. It's like trap sweat inside, spreads it like a maze, shows nothing on the outside. That's also one of the top scripts from the Facebook campaigns that we've done. And so it really just nailed it. Whereas this first one isn't bad. We could have gotten it right, but then a human's involved. I'm involved. It's rounds of edits. So it's a starting point. Whereas this is candidly good to go. It's like, all right, send this to production.
I hadn't really thought about it until you're just literally showing it, that basically you have it writing the script for a TikTok ad, pulling from the best copy that's worked on other social platforms, just as a awareness and a starting point.
Yes. And it's like, why not leverage that so the wins can compound, right? And then the cool thing is so I should have pulled it up, but for email, this was exciting. We uploaded our product launch calendar for the next 9 months. I uploaded all of our top historical emails, our top copy, and I basically said, I want to send 4 emails a month. 3 are promotional, 1 is content-based. Based on the knowledge base, give me the content calendar, write every email. And I don't know, within 15 seconds, we had the content calendar for 9 months. And it's like now in production. And we're basically, all that is left is Black Friday, Cyber Monday for the year. And I mean, that's just magic.
That's great.
Yeah. The other thing that I think you and I both get excited about is these conversation starters, because there's so many repetitive tasks that you're jumping into. And so I'll show some of these that are just a really nice shortcut. And I'm sure a lot of people are doing other things, but for me, obviously it's email is one where it's like, okay, write an email, 2 subject lines, 1 headline, clear CTA. I give it the word count, but here's like the magic is at the end, I'm like, ask me what you want the subject of the email to be. So I'll be like, our new pocket tees. And then it's like, boom. The other one is taking the persona of a data scientist. So really having it take that persona. And this is where I give it the nuanced details of different labels in a file I might upload from a Shopify export. So example, learn from the order data, product ad customer is the field. And then it starts to do the analysis based on what I want. Same with ad copy. We went through that. We have a customer service one. And then one of my favorites is having it take the persona of an executive coach to do strategic business thinking. Do you have any other conversation starters that you use, either high frequency or ones that are high impact?
Well, it's not so much conversation starters, and this might be jumping ahead, but the things I use a lot is I really use a lot of the formulas that your team has built for creating ad copy on Facebook or Instagram or different places like that. Like you've really boiled it down to these really like wonderful little small things. Because if you ask just general ChatGPT to create something that's these long meandering sales copy, and you've got really got a couple frameworks that are really working.
Yeah, and this is something we'll be pushing out more, but like we're kind of putting our agency out of business, but that's fine. That's what AI is. But it's basically we've really honed in on these prompts to help with specific parts of ad copy, even doing keyword research. But yeah, this is kind of our Bible for everything.
You know what? The one thing I will say, so you're asking originally about conversation starters. The one I love, you've seen me use this a lot. I do a lot. There's a hero's journey that is often used for marketing. You have your hero's journey. There's a shorter version of the hero's journey called the Dan Harmon story circle.
That's a good one.
I use it all the time. So I'll ask for a Dan Harmon story circle around one particular scenario, and it gives this great little nine-piece story that can then be used in for like the framework of different marketing pieces, which I love.
Yeah. I've been stealing that one from you. And Copy Blogger, I believe, has been a good one where I'll be like, take the persona of this, and like Story Brand. Yeah, those are really good call outs.
Yeah.
And we could talk about the what was the $200 research function that is now no longer. So for me, this one isn't as much of a high frequency use case, but more of a high impact one. If we're taking on a new client, or for us, we're doing our QBRs, quarterly business review, and setting our rocks for EOS, this is when I tap into the research one. And this is one you're teeing up. It's like, all right, do a SWOT analysis of need, because we're really looking at positioning things. And you know what, as I went through this, a lot of this I did already know, like, okay, I get it. But I'll tell you what, for me, was kind of the magic moment is we are looking for global expansion. And as it hit on that, it was kind of hitting on actually looking at the revenue opportunity in the Middle East, going to Dubai. It's like, actually, that makes a lot of sense. We've been looking more at Australia. And so it's like, that's a no-brainer to go there if our distribution can handle it. The other big one that was kind of magic is, like, so many times we'll have virtual assistants go off and do these research projects, and it takes a week and a half. It compiled one in 15 minutes where basically pulled all of our competitors, and it nailed the competitors. It showed their pricing, but also their bundle pricing. And it then started to position us, are we premium, mid, or value tier? And how we're viewed from the eyes of customers, because with tariffs going on, and we're doing a new product launch with new materials, it's really making me rethink our pricing strategy and how it is from like a 360-degree view of other customers. So those were pretty big unlocks for me with this analysis.
Just to emphasize for people that may not have seen this deep research feature, because it's about a month old with ChatGPT. Can you put your cursor at the bottom where it says message ChatGPT, and there's that little button that says deep research, just right down there.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And this is now something that used to only be available for people who are paying $200 a month. It's now available for anyone that's on just the paid plan. Deep research basically will take about 15 minutes. So what it does is it will kick off a whole series of searches. So when I asked ChatGPT to do a pricing study of Neat's t-shirt product line in comparison to all their competitors, it's not just answering from general knowledge. It's literally loading up page after page, figuring out where to go look, doing research, and basically coming back with what is happening in the market right now from things it can find online. So it really is like unleashing a human researcher to basically go out, start scouring the web. And probably if we had hired someone to do this, it would have been maybe a 4-hour process for them to get back with this level of detail.
Oh, totally. And even as we want to buy a company, we got their URL, put it in there, and it was essentially doing due diligence for us. And it was extremely impressive. Yeah, and I feel like as we get into more planning and even kicking off with clients, this is one I don't think we're taking advantage of enough in how we can unlock it. So yeah, that one's pretty fun. One other thing that we can hit on is we kind of talked about, okay, you got your knowledge base, you're loading it up. You've got your conversation starters. We went through how we like to prompt it by having it take a persona and it to interview us. Kind of showed the impact of the custom GPT versus the others. For me, it's really being disciplined, and what are those prompts you want to rely on that can allow you to scale things and to train team members. So one thing that we're thinking through is systems and scalability with our team. It's like, don't always come back and do like some custom prompt. How can you systematize it to give it to other people? Because the more we can do that, it enables our team to focus on high impact actions. But yeah, so anyway, what I'm showing here, all the different prompts we've been testing. And I think we'll probably be ready in a few weeks to show some of the prompts for the actual like creative we're doing within Midjourney and other things that I think could be a big unlock. But like anything on that, Craig, or like, where are you looking to go next with like your custom GPTs? Because for me, it's API integrations and real-time data. It's like where my head is at.
Well, I mean, to reveal a little bit behind the scenes of some of the stuff that was being talked about, what we're working on, one of the big projects we're working on is trying to figure out the best way to get live sales data in from Shopify stores in greater depth, so that we can go below the surface and be able to do some of the types of things you might normally ask a data scientist to do some additional research on. And what we are finding is we're having to do a lot of prep of that data ahead of time. So basically, we can't just dump in the data straight from Shopify. And we're right now in the process of basically testing a bunch of different ways to be able to clean it up, streamline it, focus it, so that we can do more exploratory work. And then the other thing, just, I'm thinking about like how you use these tools within your team. You've got about give or take around a 30 or 40 person team that is basically working on different client projects, and you have internal training systems that are like helping people do this. But as you're rolling out more and more AI tools, it's actually creating more consistency in the skill set that your teams have, because you're taking basically the knowledge from a couple key people that are really good at different areas and domains and starting to build tools out that get their information into the hands of into some of their co-team members. It's really amazing to watch.
Yeah, and I think for us, it's like trying to empower the team. And how do you do that? So we have an AI council every Thursday. We have a little show and tell function to it, which creates a little bit of fake pressure and gamesmanship to it. I think in a healthy way, hopefully, where people are like, hey, it's not just like, oh, here's this cool new tool, but hey, I tested it on Neat, or I tested on this client that's down to work with us, and here's the big unlock. And I think as we start to do that, we see wins. And then once it works, then we can systematize it, put it in, and find the next thing. So you say it well, it's like we don't have the silver bullet yet. There's no silver bullet, but there's lots of little wins that build on top of each other. And so now we're kind of hunting for use cases and problems that we can solve with specific systems within AI. And I think those will add up.
Yeah, and the thing I really appreciate is there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of theoretical work in AI right now. What I really appreciate is when people are coming to that council meeting and showing the work that they did this week for a client, and whether that's text generation, image generation, video generation. We're kind of like working down that list of things. Right now, we're working on the analytics and different ways that we can use the information to automatically diagnose where are the problem points in growth in a particular company. Yeah. And each one of those, you have 2 or 3 team members that have different areas of expertise. They have live client projects that they're working on. And it's not just a matter of what could work in theory, but what actually does work, and what works so well that team members start to really lean into it and use it because it is better than doing without it.
Yeah. That's very great. And we'll we want to be sharing more of what we're doing. We'll be releasing these prompts once they're all dialed in here in the near future. But one thing for people listening, if they're interested, what we're excited about is being able to make a master dashboard that's AI enabled that basically has tripwires, because dashboards are great, but you have to do the work and do the heavy lifting. What we're able to do is like, okay, here's your dashboard, but by the way, your cost per acquisition is under $40. You can spend up to $60 to acquire people, spend more, invest more, test these channels. Or, hey, your add to cart to conversion rate, it's actually at this. You need to focus on, top of funnel conversion experiments. Or for us with Neat, we saw that email was a smaller part of our revenue than it should be. That was a trigger to more flow experiments, increase send velocity. Because if the power with AI is it can let data really tell you and drive your actions. And so I think I'm excited for when we can release that.
That's something, you know what, when you asked if there was anything else I was thinking about that, but I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about it in public. But yes, like this. But this is the big thing I'm really excited about is effectively looking at your team basically builds kind of custom dashboards for individual clients, and they come up with the key pieces of data that for that client really determine where the levers of growth are controlled and when they need to be focusing on the landing page or the ads themselves or email, or like there's this whole full range of tools that are accessible. And what we're basically aspirationally building is something that combines the live data from a Shopify store along with the data for conversions from ads, from landing pages, from everything, and then overlays that with how a seasoned professional at GrowthHit views that and basically helps identify where the opportunities for growth or the problems to be solved are. And it's really amazing what is becoming available to us. So future show and tell.
When are we going to get to do that?
Well, we maybe soon, maybe this month.
Yeah.
Oh wait, this is February 27th. Maybe next month.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Well, cool. Well, hopefully that was helpful for you guys. If anybody that was listening to this, because this will be on a podcast, I apologize. Maybe it's best to go to YouTube or somewhere where you can see the demo of the GPTs and what we did. But more to come. I'm excited when we can show some of the mid-journey prompts that we've done and had success with, and the AI-enabled dashboard. Maybe we need a better buzzword for that one. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys. Craig, thank you for, by the way, I told Craig this morning, I think he should come on with me. So I appreciate him making it happen.
Thank you.